Hey guys, Matt from Eastwood here in my home garage talking about some of my favorite products. So today what we're talking about is an add-on to probably one of my favorite sanding tools, which is the 2-inch surface prep tool that I use for general fabrication, sanding welds, stripping paint. This is one of my workhorse sanders other than my 4.5-inch grinder. I use this guy pretty much every single day on my projects. The nice thing about this tool is it has a quick release where you can remove your abrasives with just doing a couple little turns and they pop right off. Also known as a Roll-Lock style consumable, but this uses these quick release, and it's nice to have a sander that is dedicated just for doing this. I like to keep my die grinders separate for using some of our abrasive, what I call the diamond bits, the carbide bits. They're really handy to use just in your die grinder, and then you can keep this freed up for just using sanding. So what we've added on to this sander and any sander that takes this quick release abrasive setup is pretty much a full line of sanding discs or abrasives for it. And I just have a couple of my favorites that I've been using like crazy. We have a full line that you can check the link down below and see those, but these four are kind of like my most used ones and probably one of the best ones to grab if you're just starting out with one of these sanders and getting these abrasives. So one of the first ones, and probably my most used that I've just been thankful for, is a mini flat disc. Yes, this thing is awesome. I use the 4.5-inch grinder and some of the bigger sanders for leveling out welds really quick, or if I'm trying to get all the paint and rust or coatings off of an area before you actually start modifying or welding or repairing it, I'll use that. But oftentimes what happens is the big flat disc can be a little too aggressive, where you might catch an edge or you might grind in an area and thin the metal out if you're not careful because it is so large. With this little mini flat disc, it comes in a couple different grits. You're able to throw this right on and you're able to sand your welds, get in corners, do things like that really easily, and it basically makes your life a lot easier, and it's something that you can just throw right next to your flat disc, your big 4.5-inch, and you can just grind and smooth things, and it's a lot safer, and you can get in a lot tighter areas. I've really found when smoothing out welds or trying to get an area where you're trying to transition a repair into original metal, this is really handy because you can get in those little corners and detail areas and really blend and smooth the metal so that you're not using body filler to fill those areas, you're actually smoothing the weld or the metal. So that's one of my favorites that I use probably the most often. Next one is we have a bunch of different Zirconia sandpaper discs. So these are really great because they last a lot longer than just a traditional sandpaper. So the Zirconia is made to be a longer lasting, faster cutting abrasive. So I have a couple of these in some of the more aggressive grits like 40 and 60 that I'll use after I use the flat disc. I will use this in addition to kind of knock down any highs in a weld. This will take off a lot of metal really fast because they do cut really quick, but it's great for knocking down welds and cleaning up areas really fast. But if you need to actually move some metal on something thicker, you can push a little bit on it and it will work well. It overhangs the edge, so it's a little larger than the disc, the backer pad on the surface prep tool, so you can get into corners. It has a little bit of flex, so you can kind of sculpt a little bit with it if you are doing that, which is pretty nice. So that's the abrasive. And one of the next ones is a stripping disc. So you know that we sell the really large stripping discs that you can put on a big angle grinder or a hard disc angle grinder. We have the smaller ones you can put on a 4.5-inch angle grinder. They all work really well, but they're all pretty large. They're made for stripping paint off of big areas, full panels. But a lot of times you can't get into corners or detail areas like around bead details or body lines on a car, or maybe there is an area where there's a recess and you can't get in. You can't really use those, and what ends up happening is that you catch edges and you will basically just self-destruct the disc if it catches the sharp edge or it gets caught in an area where it gets stuck. So by using these little 2-inch guys, you're able to just quickly throw it on, thread it on, and you can now get into those small tight areas where maybe you need to remove some old body filler, old paint, or maybe you're just trying to strip a panel clean of any surface rust really quickly before you do some work on it. You can use this guy. It's not going to remove not nearly as much metal as some of these other discs, but it can remove a little bit of metal if you push really hard. But I mainly just use it for stripping old paints and coatings off in areas where I can't get to before. And if you're not trying to media blast the whole panel, you can use a combination of the SCT and the stripping disc and our bristle disc to kind of a complete stripping solution without using media blasting. So that's why I like using this. The last one is probably one of the most common general use quick release, and that is this surface conditioning pad. These are really good for, again, surfacing metal if you're trying to go over areas where maybe you knocked the weld down and you want to take out some of the sanding grit really fast with the more aggressive options I showed before. You can use this. Another really great one for this is if you're doing mechanical work where you're stripping something down that had an old gasket on it. You can use this to quickly remove the gasket material. Now I keep the coarse myself in my box because I mostly do it for actually removing or surfacing welds, but we have less aggressive ones that you can use if you're removing gaskets and things like that. They're a little safer, and you can use it anytime you're removing gaskets or trying to get residue off of something before you are doing a rebuild, or if you're just doing general maintenance work, like say doing a head gasket or intake manifold gasket. You can use this to get rid of any of the residue of the old gasket to make sure that you're getting a good seal when you're putting everything back together. So that's some of my favorite new abrasives for any of your Rolox style die grinder tools, or if you have one of these 2-inch surface prep tools, which you should get if you don't have one. That is my favorite abrasives from our line. So if you want to check out all the new abrasives that we have in our line, you can click the link down below, or you can visit eastwood.com and search Rolox or 2-inch abrasive discs. Thanks guys, catch you later.